Hey guys, I got a request to do a video about the difference between være and obli. And this is a really good request. Here's the definitions from the university in Oslo, from their dictionary site. It's a really good site. I highly recommend that. But before I even go over this, I want to mention that these two verbs are very important. Være is, I think, the most commonly used verb in Norwegian, and obli is not far behind at all. They do a lot of heavy lifting, and it's really, really important to understand not only what they mean, but how they work. And when I say how they work, it's because these two verbs are also auxiliary verbs. So they change the meaning of other verbs, and other verbs change their meaning as well. So it can be. Let's just do this first here. Være means to be, like Shakespeare said, to be or not to be, or to exist or to remain. You know, it can mean to stay or reside, but mainly it just means to be and like to exist. You know, obli means it means change. It means changing the existence. That's what it's all about. And what can be, if you look at the two right here, to remain and to continue to be, those are the same, right? Well, not exactly. And let's just start by going over some sentences, which is the best way to see how any words work, I think, but it's especially important for these two verbs, you know, or any auxiliary verbs. You have to see how they work in sentences because they change. And this one is pretty simple. It can become, bli, kostbart, right? To be, to exist as an employer. And look at this here. There's no article there, and I like this sentence because the article's missing. You may have noticed that with professions, and it also happens with uncountable nouns as well. Sometimes there won't be an article. If you wanted to say something like, what do you think as an employer, then all of a sudden the article would appear again. And these are little things that you find out when you play the detective and you solve these mysteries. It makes everything, it's a relief actually to figure it out, you know, when you see them. So I just figured I would show you that in case you were wondering. Now here we have both these verbs together, and they mean have become. And you're probably saying, how can arblet turn into have become, you know, in past tense? Well, it's the blit that has pacified this form of overa, right? And I found this out because I became curious about it. You know, I was like, what the heck? Which one am I supposed to use? You know, because they both mean the same thing, but they don't exactly. So I have a link if you want to learn more about this. But if you've ever seen this and wondered, you know, it's really just putting emphasis on the result of an action, and it's very slight, but you can use both of them. If you're just starting out, harblet would probably be, you know, what I would use. Go ahead and, you know, Google arblet, and you'll see it's used all the time. Okay. Now, here you go with Marilyn Monroe was born in 1926, but if you've noticed, you know, ble faute is used all the time. It's not var faute. It isn't used like that. But it's good to understand that, you know, here you have an auxiliary verb doing its job, and it's good to remember how the form of the verb is used with other verbs, you know, how it's used all the time, and notice the pattern. But it's also really cool to understand that it's doing extra work here in the sentence. And down here is the present tense version of være, right? You know, just doing its simple function as a normal verb. And so it's just really interesting when you part of it is noticing how the verbs are used, and then the other half is sort of understanding what they're doing. And it's nice to lay it out and be aware of it. Now, this is what I was talking about with combining them with other auxiliary verbs. What can happen is, just when you think that you understand exactly what one form of a verb means, and you whack it, it pops up again and means something slightly different. And that's because they're changing the meaning of other verbs. And so these verbs not only have the power to change the meaning of another, to modify the action of another verb, but they can be modified as well. And just to get back to the difference here, we could have become injured, right? We could have become that way, is what they're trying to say here. And then in this sentence, they're saying the police think more flere, more people, that's what flere means in this context, could have been, they could have been there, not they could have become involved, they could have been there. And so that gives you a sense of how the verbs are used. And it's all right there if you look at examples in sentences. Now here I just listed out the Norwegian auxiliary verbs, and here's some down here that the white ones are not officially classified as auxiliary that I know of, but they do function sometimes like auxiliary verbs. And here's our two right here, obli and overe. So I just put this up here for your reference. Okay, now what should I be when I grow up? All right, hva skal jeg bli når jeg blir stor? If you look at the exact translation of the words, you can see how the transmission of the sentence, how these function as gears in a transmission, and what they really mean. And you just wouldn't say hva skal jeg være når jeg blir stor. That it just doesn't go. So half of understanding these, the process is to see how they're used within, notice patterns, and then to understand, what the word actually means. And then the next step would be to start using them, try to use them yourself. And as I just put down here, see here, what should I be? That's, in English, that's how you would express become sometimes in the context of this sentence. It's correct. But, so bli can mean many different English words depending on the context. They, can be translated into all of these and maybe a few more. So, all it is it just takes time to sort of observe how they're used. And here the application process, right, for loans has become. It has become. That means it wasn't always simple, but it has become simpler or easier. And this is, it's important. If you want to express yourself, it's a very powerful thing to be able to have some command over these verbs, and to know when to use each one appropriately. And it could take a little time. I'm not going to say you're going to learn all of this just in a short time, because these verbs, like I said, they are not normal verbs. They are special, and they change. So don't be frustrated if it takes a little while. But since you're hopefully you're forewarned about it ahead of time, you may be able to get the hang of them a little faster. Down here, I just put this in, because sometimes these verbs also get, combined to form little expressions, and so they behave differently than they would normally behave. Like it still means to become rid of here, but bli kvitt actually means get rid of. So you may, my point here is, don't base your knowledge of this verb on the way it's used in some expressions. It's the other way around. Just know that, this verb has been combined here, and it's used this way. I think that that's pretty important. That's why these little expressions, these groups of words together, when you see them over and over, you get the hang of it. You can tell the difference between whether the verb is really how it's functioning, and not sort of go down the wrong path, or get confused about it. And here's another sentence here, translated into English. Check how the weather will be. And in this case, blir really is doing a lot, and it gives the appearance for somebody who speaks English to be a little bit short of a sentence. It's saying a lot with where are all the rest of the words? Well, it's because of blir and the way it's being used here. Turns into will be. So it's just another, I could go on and on forever with different examples, but you can too. I mean, just all you do is highlight, copy, and paste into Google search, and you'll see these words highlighted in sentences, and you can start to do your own detective work. And here again, I just put out down here all the different ways that blir can be expressed in English. It's not so much blir, it's the English. English has another way of expressing what blir is expressing. That's what's going on there. So, hopefully I have cleared up a little bit of the mystery for you. And, like to those of you who are just starting out learning Norwegian, I wish I had sort of had this been explained to me when I started. Then I wouldn't have wasted so much time sort of thinking I had it and then being confused later on. If you know that these two verbs can be a little bit more complicated than other verbs, then you won't waste your time learning and relearning them. If you approach them in context, in sentences, and you're aware that they do all this heavy work, and that they're changing, then you can step by step start to understand, how they work. And what's cool about it too is, you learn other words while you're focusing on the verbs here. You can pick up other words and learn them all in context, and then you do skal bli flink I norsk, right? Hopefully. So I have links to this information, and so you can go ahead and read more about it and see the references that I used in this video. And as always, thank you for watching, taking your time out to watch, and yeah, ha det fint.